A Mortal's Journey to Immortality Episode 269. In the previous episode, the clash between the Heavenly South cultivators and the Spell Warriors escalated as Han Li and the Elite Masters vanished into the clouds. Their battle shaking the heavens with thunder, darkness, and fire. Meanwhile, the armies below unleashed waves of devastating long-range treasures, golden mist, firebirds, and icy winds, hammering the Spell Warriors before they could fully raise their defenses. Forced into a corner, the shriveled old commander summoned colossal armored beasts and crafted demon creatures from enchanted beads, sending them charging fearlessly toward the cultivators. Overwhelmed by the incoming spirit technique barrage, Long Han ordered a massive formation of rainbow light to shield their forces just as fire and ice rained down from above. As the dust settled, only 8 of the enormous beasts still pushed forward, tearing across the battlefield with unstoppable momentum. What will happen next? Stay tuned. And the story continues. The cultivator's layer of rainbow light was clearly specialized in blocking spirit techniques. Under such heavy attacks, the light barrier wasn't shaken in the slightest. Long Han rejoiced at the sight. Across the battlefield, the 1,000 elite cultivators from the 9 Nations Union maintained the vast formation with unwavering precision. Their movements were synchronized, their chants steady, forming a protective barrier that radiated shimmering colors like flowing silk. It was clear from their discipline alone that Wei Wuya had not exaggerated their abilities. Their formation created an impenetrable shell that easily absorbed the incoming barrage of fireballs and icicles hurled by the Moulan Spell Warriors. But the shriveled old commander of the Spell Warriors was not willing to concede even a momentary setback. His expression turned dark and stiff, but he immediately barked out another order. At his command, the Spell Warriors changed their incantations, and the air began to churn with new spiritual force. The sky rippled as fiery crows with wings of blazing ember and translucent ice pythons with glaring sapphire eyes materialized out of swirling light. Each creature was far more complex and powerful than the simple spell projectiles used earlier. But their formation required more time to channel. Just when the Moulan incantations reached their midpoint, a sudden ripple passed through the cultivator ranks. A group of green-robed cultivators surged out from behind the rainbow barrier. Without hesitation, they held up their spirit beast pouches, releasing dozens of demon beasts in bursts of multicolored radiance. The earth quaked as the beasts took shape. At the forefront were 3 terrifying spirit beasts, each one nurtured by the Controlling Spirit Sect with rare care and ferocity. A majestic dragon horse charged forward, its single horn glowing white and its scaled body shimmering like polished crystal. Beside it thundered a 2-headed demon lion with matted green fur and a pungent aura, each head snarling with eerie coordination. Towering above them all was a massive crimson venomous scorpion, its armored shell gleaming and its enormous pitch-black stinger poised to strike with lethal precision. The moment these 3 led the legion of lesser demon beasts, they collided with the Moulan's summoned titans and the transformed spirit beasts. The battlefield erupted into a chaotic storm of roars, snaps, collisions, and bursts of spiritual force. Even though only the 3 main beasts were strong enough to fight a giant spell beast alone. The Controlling Spirit Sect had numbers on their side. Their coordination was precise, their discipline firm. Slowly but surely, they pushed back the Moulan beasts and began to seize the advantage. At the same time, thousands of cultivators launched themselves into the air. 5 divisions rose into formation, each unit wielding an array of magic tools and spiritual treasures. From above, waves of dazzling beams, blades of condensed energy, and swirling streams of spiritual light rained down upon the Moulan army. Their overwhelming firepower aimed to break the enemy's casting rhythm before the next devastating spell barrage could be completed. Realizing this, the shriveled old Moulan commander let out a cold snort, his eyes flashing with anger. He raised his hand, and scores of spell warriors lifted into the sky to intercept the cultivators. Instantly, the heavens erupted into a storm of intersecting spiritual techniques. Flying swords, spell seals, and shimmering magical treasures. Explosions roared through the air. Hundreds of defensive tools shattered under the impact, sending their owners tumbling from the sky in streaks of fading light. It was a brutal and desperate clash. Yet even this brief delay was enough. With fierce determination, the Moulan spell warriors completed their incantations. Scores of fully manifested fire crows and ice pythons surged forward like a living tidal wave, screaming and hissing as they hurtled toward the cultivators. But the cultivators were ready. Before the creatures could land, another rain of spiritual treasures soared up to intercept them. A storm of impacts lit the sky, scattering most of the fire crows and ice pythons into fragments of light. The few that slipped past slammed against the rainbow barrier, and were stopped cold, leaving only faint tremors in their wake. Long Han's expression tightened. Although the barrier held, he could clearly see that stronger spell techniques might push it beyond its limits. After a long exhale, he issued the command for the cultivator army to advance slowly under the protection of the rainbow light. At the same time, cultivators throughout the ranks drew out their magic treasures and began preparing for close-range battle, murmuring incantations as their tools glowed brighter and brighter. The Moulan commander immediately understood their intent. If the cultivators closed the distance and forced melee combat, the spell warriors would lose the chance to cast another large-scale spell barrage. With a dark expression, he commanded his army to abandon their defensive barrier and advance as well. The two massive armies drew closer. At a distance of only 300 meters, they could faintly make out one another's faces and expressions. Suddenly, 7 streaks of pale white light shot out from among the cultivators. They were jade talismans, each released by an elder from the Phoenix Cry sect. The talismans soared high into the air above the Moulan ranks, rotating in a tight orbit. Then, all at once, they revealed their true form. They contracted, expanded, and then cracked open into thunderous detonations. Each talisman dissolved into a blazing orb of white lightning, hovering like miniature suns 20 or 30 meters wide. The Moulan spell warriors stared upward in shock as the sky blazed with incandescent radiance. "Not good, ancient talismans," the shriveled old commander shouted, his face twisting in horror. Before he could issue another order, all 7 blazing suns exploded in rapid succession. A vast flood of lightning poured downward, forming 7 colossal nets of blistering white arcs. They engulfed the Moulan ranks, shaking the battlefield and drowning everything in roaring thunder. The cultivators took this moment to unleash their own barrage. Countless streaks of multicolored light flew into the sky as talismans, spell seals, and spiritual tools rained down upon the Moulan positions. The heavens rumbled like an unending storm. Far from the chaotic battlefield, Han Li stood quietly within the strange crimson barrier that had trapped him. He watched the flickering red surface with calm eyes. Outside, the thunderous vibrations reached him like distant echoes. "It seems quite lively on the outside," he murmured with a faint sigh. Ever since he deduced that the Moulan intended to trap him, his worries had vanished. They might place complete faith in the blood barrier, but he trusted his ability to break through restrictions even more. The only question was the right moment to act. He had no intention of rushing out blindly and becoming a meaningless casualty in the middle of a battlefield filled with elite spell warriors and nascent soul cultivators. Emerging too early would be courting death. The best moment would be when both armies had clashed completely, when chaos masked his movements and high-level cultivators were already locked in combat. He placed a hand on the red barrier, feeling the faint tremors from the outside. Whatever attack had struck earlier must have been devastating. But he had his own problem to solve first. The blood barrier was odd, very odd. His spiritual sense could not penetrate it at all. Even more startling, the divine Devilbane lightning he relied on had no effect on the restriction, proving that it truly belonged to a profound Devil Dao method. Intrigued, Han Li had spent the past moments studying it thoroughly with his bright sight spirit eyes. But all he could see was an opaque layer of red mist. No structure, no pattern, just a smooth surface that refused to reveal its secrets. He decided to test its durability again. Opening his mouth, he released a small azure sword. As soon as it left him, a wave of spiritual essence coursed through it, turning it into a streak of sharp blue light. It shot forward and slammed into the barrier. A muffled thud sounded, and the sword rebounded several meters, unable to leave even the faintest mark. Han Li was not discouraged. He retrieved the sword and pulled out a pitch-black treasure, the thousand-fold mountain. With a flick of his wrist, he tossed it into the air. Black light burst forth as the miniature mountain expanded to over 30 meters tall in an instant. Pointing upward, he commanded it forward. The mountain shot straight into the blood barrier with tremendous force. Black and red light collided, swirling violently. Then, once again, the mountain bounced back, leaving only slight ripples along the barrier's surface. Han Li frowned slightly. Still not enough. He pointed once more, channeling deeper spiritual force into the treasure. The mountain flew back up, this time aiming for the center of the barrier. As it struck, Han Li murmured a string of incantations. The small mountain responded instantly, swelling larger and larger. Within breaths, it reached over 200 meters tall, its dark surface pressing against both the upper and lower edges of the Crimson Dome. Not stopping there, Han Li unleashed more spell seals. The mountain trembled, pushing outward with increasing force as it grew to 300 meters tall. Ripples spread across the barrier. The dome quivered. A faint protrusion began to form as the pressure mounted. Han Li felt hope spark in his chest. He quickly drew more spiritual power and hurled another series of spell seals at the treasure. The mountain strained, inch by inch, deforming the blood barrier. But then, its expansion halted. The barrier resisted forcefully, stopping the immense pressure cold. Han Li slowly lowered his hand. The thousand-fold mountain floated still, unable to push further. After a moment, he released a quiet breath and allowed the treasure to shrink back to its miniature form. He raised his gaze to the top of the Crimson Dome, eyes narrowing thoughtfully. Han Li ceased his incantation gestures and stared at the top of the blood barrier with narrowed eyes. It seemed that using the thousand-fold mountain to break the restrictions wasn't going to work. He would have to try using the celestial ice flames and the purple apex flames to break it. In this episode, we saw an intense large-scale clash unfold between the cultivators and the Moulan spell warriors. The Nine Nations Union unleashed their powerful rainbow barrier, skillfully blocking wave after wave of spiritual attacks, while the Controlling Spirit Sect released their fierce demon beasts to halt the enemy advance. High above, thousands of cultivators and spell warriors exchanged devastating techniques, magical treasures, and thunderous talismans that lit up the sky like a storm of suns. Meanwhile, Han Li remained trapped inside the strange crimson blood barrier, calmly analyzing its structure and testing methods to break free. Even his thousand-fold mountain, expanded to several hundred meters, proved unable to breach it, forcing him to consider turning to his celestial ice flames and purple apex flames instead. What happens next? Stay tuned for the next episode of Immortal's journey to immortality. If you enjoyed this episode or found it interesting, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel to receive notifications for the latest episodes in Han Li's journey. Thank you for watching, goodbye, and see you in the next videos.